So this is the last talk of today's talks, and it's my pleasure to introduce Christian Bonatti, who is a very old friend of all Brazilian mathematical community. Thank you, Christian, for accepting. Please.
Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to speak for me for the second time for the 60th birthday of Lorenzo. It's if anyone asks me if I want to speak about Lorenzo, the answer is always yes, because he's a so good friend and so good collaborator that it's just a pleasure. It has been also a pleasure to listen to the talk of Enrique, and indeed for going in the same direction that Enrique. Recently, I had to make a report on for getting promoted. I don't know if I will be, but I wrote in my report that when people ask me if in my people not mathematician, so you say you are a researcher in math, and so they ask you, do you find something? Is there something useful in what you've found? So my answer is now that yes, I have an object that I almost sure it will have concrete application, and these objects are the blenders. And my answer is because the blenders are now no more what we have done. They escape to our control, and they start to be so much generalized that I'm sure that they will have application in concrete life. So that is precisely what Enrique was telling, and I'm so happy that he also shares this kind of sensation. So last time, for the other birthday of Lorenzo, I make a talk more like jokes, between jokes and maths. So this time I decided to speak about our last collaboration. It's a collaboration that has been initiated by Lorenzo, and he brings me to look at the following problem that he started with Anton Gorodetsky, indeed. And so the problem that we were considering is if you have non-hyperbolic dynamical systems, can we characterize the non-hyperbolicity by the existence of a non-hyperbolic measure? So that it looks natural. If you have hyperbolic dynamical system, certainly all the measures are hyperbolic. Hyperbolic measure just means that the Lyapunov exponents are non-zero. So non-hyperbolic measure means that they have some vanishing Lyapunov exponent. And so the answer is known for a long time, and the answer is no. You have dynamical system so that every measure is hyperbolic, but your system is not hyperbolic. So let me show you one simple example. There are others, but that is some of the most simple example of chaotic non-hyperbolic system, which is so that every measure is hyperbolic indeed. So you start with an hyperbolic matrix in SL2Z, so it acts on R2, but keeping invariant Z2. So it passes to the quotient as a Anosov diffeomorphism on the torus T2. So let's call FA this linear Anosov diffeomorphism. And now you blow up one fixed point. So when you blow up a point, you replace the point by some Möbius bond. So you get a new manifold, which is the connect sum of T2 by RT2. So, but you get an analytic diffeomorphism there. And this analytic diffeomorphism is smoothly conjugated to the initial one out of the point that you blow up. So out so you replace the point by a circle, And out of this point on that circle, the dynamics are smoothly conjugated. Smoothly conjugated keeps the Lyapunov exponent of measures. So if you change any Lyapunov exponent, is just at the point P, and indeed you change it because this point P is replaced as 2 points. Here you see 4, but it's because I cannot draw a Möbius band. I draw just on the plane. So this point indeed is the same as this one. And this point is an hyperbolic point, and the other is also a hyperbolic point. So the new measures, so for after blowing, the measures for F as the Lyapunov exponent, the Lyapunov exponent of FA for any measure which is not supported on that circle, and that is lambda and log lambda minus log lambda. And for the new fixed point, well, you have eigenvalue which are the square on lambda on lambda minus 2. So you change the eigenvalue, but it's still hyperbolic. So this map is has only hyperbolic measures. The Lyapunov exponents are far away from 0, and but the map is not hyperbolic because the stable and unstable direction when you are here start to be very so you have very small. It's not working. Well, no, I don't know. So yes, the angles start to be very small, and when you arrive there, then you have tangencies. So it's clearly not an hyperbolic diffeomorphism, but every Lyapunov exponent is far from 0. Indeed, speaking about the first talk, about trams, we have a spectral gap here because the Lyapunov exponent are log lambda minus log lambda for all the measure, but here you have lambda square on lambda minus 2. So we have a spectral gap. But also example with which are non-hyperbolic but with hyperbolic measures looks to be very fragile, like this one. It's clear that this situation we can break this invariant circle, which is not hyperbolic at all, not normally hyperbolic. So it's clear that making a perturbation, we will break this situation. So the question is, if we look at a diffeomorphism which is robustly non-hyperbolic, then maybe, so you look at the set of robustly non-hyperbolic diffeomorphism, and we would like to know if in a C1 open and dense subset of that diffeomorphism, of this kind of diffeomorphism, there is some non-hyperbolic measure. So our work will give some answer about that, but it starts indeed, the subjects start with a very beautiful work by Gorodetsky, Klepsin, Nalsky, and Ilyashenko, published in 2005. Then there is an extension of that work by just Klepsin and Nalsky in 2007. Then Lorenzo started to collaborate with Anton with some paper in 2009, and they invite me to join them, and we have a work together in 2010, and then we have the sequence of work that I will describe in the rest of the talk, and that's finished with a collaboration with Dominique Svietniak, I think there is an E here, Svietniak, which will be published. It accepted, and we have the Gallet proof to check. Yeah. So what are the kind of answer we give? So let me just say some of our last results. So we consider a manifold M, and we look at the set of robustly transitive diffeomorphisms on M, and we assume robustly transitive partially hyperbolic. And furthermore, we want with one-dimensional center. Okay. Our conclusion is that C1 open and densely, we have that the diffeomorphism admit a measure which is ergodic, whose support is the wall manifold, whose entropy is positive, and with a vanishing center Lyapunov exponent. So it's not a complete answer because we have a setting which is partially hyperbolic, robustly transitive, but indeed it's some good answer in that setting. Okay. If we would like to go further, the first question would be, okay, here we get one vanishing Lyapunov exponent because we assume the center is one-dimensional, so we cannot get more. But if you don't assume that the center is one-dimensional, can we get more than one vanishing Lyapunov exponent? And indeed, there are partial answers. So there are answers by, I do not remember his first name, Wang. Here is Jinhua Zhang. They prove that if you have a robust cycle between saddles of different indices, and you don't have any dominated splitting between the different indices you have, then you can vanish simultaneously so many Lyapunov exponents that is reasonable to vanish. So they can vanish many simultaneous Lyapunov exponents. And we have done that in the setting of iterated function systems. So there are progress in understanding how many Lyapunov exponents we can vanish simultaneously, but it's still, I would say it's still open. And then also we have positive entropy, but how can be the entropy? So, for example, can we reach the close to the maximal entropy, or I don't know. So we would like to get a big entropy for non-hyperbolic measure. I don't know if that is possible. Maybe Crozier has partial result with his collaborators. I think I heard something about that. Okay. So why we restrict ourselves about the one-dimensional center? It's a big simplification that has been used initially by Nalsky, Ilyashenko, is because when you have a one-dimensional center, then the Lyapunov exponent is just an integral of a continuous function, and then it depends continuously of the measure. So that makes much easy to control the center Lyapunov exponent if the center direction is one-dimensional. So let me start by recalling the work of Gorodetsky, Ilyashenko, Klepsin, and Nalsky. So I thought it's a little bit a joke, but it's also easier to remember. So if you change the order of their first letter, you get King. So it's the King principle. So what is the King principle? So first, what they want is to build an ergodic non-hyperbolic measure. For that, they will build a sequence of periodic orbits so that the center Lyapunov exponent tends to 0. So if you look at some limit of the periodic measure, you certainly get that for this limit, the integral of the log of the center derivative is vanishes. So you could say, oh yes, it's very simple, but indeed not, because the difficulty is to get the ergodicity of the limit measure. So how do they do that? Oof, I don't know how many times I already speak. Okay, how they do that? They have a criterion so they look at a sequence of number with some is bounded, and another one like that. And their criterion is that if you look at the next periodic measure and you look at the proportion of points, so this next periodic orbit will follow the previous one most of the time. And these points are shadowing, but shadowing by this epsilon here. It's shadowing the previous orbit during a very long time. So in particular, during more than one period, and the proportion of time is almost 1. Is this 1 minus this term? Okay. And that makes that at the limit, any limit, you get that most of the points are shadowed by the periodic orbit during a large proportion, and this proportion is larger and larger when n is increasing. So that gives you that every point has the same integrals for continuous functions. So you get the ergodicity of the limit. So I wanted to make a picture for explaining that. I think, well, maybe it's better to spend time here on, sorry for Lorenzo if I don't explain our work, but this is a very important result by them. So let me maybe spend too much time there, but not important. Okay, so you have one orbit, one periodic orbit. On the next one, what you do is you make many times this one, many times, and after some moment you allow you some tail and you close it. And for the next one, you will follow the rect one many times. So I will not be able to draw that because you do that many times. You do there and you continue, you do there and you continue, and you do there and you continue, and you are very tired to continue, but at some moment you allow you to make some tail and you close it. On the next one, you will follow the red one, the green one many times, and so on and so on and so on. And after some moment you allow some, and that implies that the limit will be ergodic. Okay. So what are the problem of this principle of this? Is first, you are shadowing the previous orbit so many times with a so small freedom time that indeed it's very difficult to get the, you have to correct the Lyapunov exponent each time so that the Lyapunov exponent tends to 0. And you don't have you have a very small freedom time. So it's not so easy. And indeed, it's not so easy to get it directly. it's much more easier to build them by perturbation. And so with that, it's a good principle for getting generic system. And it's more difficult to get open and dense systems. And there is another issue, which is due to Dominique Jeknak and Marta. So its name is written like that, but she's Polish, and this, my wife told me that it is Łącka. So Dominique Jeknak and Marta Łącka proves that the entropy of the measure for the king obtained by the king principle is always vanishing. So can I go down? Yes. So let's now start our work. I'm not able to go down. Ooh, are you? Yeah. So what was our starting point? Our starting point is a diffeomorphism having a chain recurrent class. Maybe it's a wall manifold. Let's say it's a wall manifold, which it's partially hyperbolic. So with a one-dimensional center, we have a robust heterodimensional cycle. So we get also blenders and so on. And what we need is that we can break the region which is interesting us in some part with negative Lyapunov exponent, some part with positive Lyapunov exponent, but we can go from one to the other and to go back in finite time. And we can also visit the whole region because we are looking at chain recurrent class or transitive set and so on. But this freedom we don't have if you look at one point. You get, if you iterate, one unstable disk. You get an unstable disk. So this unstable disk is increasing and increasing. And what we need is that when you iterate, you can find inside this disk. So if you want some itinerary in this different region, you can find each time some subdisk so that the first disk is where it can, but the next one following your itinerary, the second one is following twice the two first letters of your itinerary, and you continue like that. So that is the data that we have, and which is given by the blenders on all what explained Enrique before me. So we can choose this itinerary. So you can contract the time that you want, then you can expand, then you can visit the whole manifold, then you can contract again, expand. So to get one point so that the contraction expansion go to zero, that is easy, but that don't give you an ergodic measure at the limit. So let's explain what we have done, which are so we find two different principles. The first one is called control at any scale. If I'm able to go down, I will. Okay. And so by this first principle, we get. So I explained that we are iterating a disk D0 and finding inside smaller and smaller and smaller disks. And so they will converge to a point. On this point X, we have the following property. It will have that if you look at its omega limit, the topological entropy is positive. But also, if you take any point in that omega limit, not almost every point, you take every point, its Lyapunov exponent is well defined and vanishes. How we do that? So it's what we call the control at any scale. So we have to choose a scale. Each scale is just a sequence of time going to infinity, so that the next one is a multiple of the first one on a multiple larger than one. And that if you look at averages in an interval of time Tn, then these averages of the, for getting the Lyapunov exponent of the log of the central derivative has to be between two intervals, very small, close to zero, but not zero, one negative and one positive. Let me make a picture because it's complicated to follow formulas in very quick talk. So you look at your time and you divide in interval of t0 of length t0, all that is t0. Then you divide in t1, then you divide in t2, then in t3, and so on. And each time you follow an interval of size t0, then the average of the log of the derivative has to be in one of these two cones, which are reasonably far from zero. But now, when you follow them, you follow increasing, increasing, then decreasing. Then when you arrive to T1, you get an inclination which is smaller and which is given by the alpha 1, the epsilon 1. And then for you look at the next scale, you get even smaller. So this very small inclination is not like that. You get a K0, you see interval like that. Each time you get to K2, it has to be in this inclination. Each time you arrive there, this like that, you will arrive there. So, but you see that at any interval that you look, which is multiple of Ti, you see the average has to be in the prescribed, so in these intervals with epsilon, which tends to zero. And that is a closed property. So you go to the limit and you get a uniformly vanishing Lyapunov exponent at the limit. Indeed, we could change. We could want not vanishing exponent, but an exponent with a given value, any lambda, and we get indeed a family of disjoint compact set parameter which are parameterized by lambda, which so that the Lyapunov exponent is precisely lambda on all this k lambda, and the entropy is always positive and far away from zero. Okay, so that was nice for getting vanishing non-hyperbolic measure with positive entropy, but as it is so uniform, it's clear that our compact set cannot visit the whole manifold because there are some place where the Lyapunov exponent is not vanishing. So here, we could not get measure with full support on our manifold. So I am passing my time, or do I have some time more?
No, you have time. You have 10 minutes. Yes.
Whoa. Okay, so sorry, maybe I'm too fast then. So we try to apply in some sense the same idea as the King principle. The King principle is to allow to some tail for visiting, for fixing some, for them it was for fixing the Lyapunov exponent, but here we would like a tail for getting the density of the orbits, so that we could get a control of the support of the measure. So as them, we will allow a tail, but very sparse, so that it has no too much influence on the averages. So it's what, so it was called the control at any scale with sparse tail. And so the idea is to take again a scale, but this time the scale has to increase very, very fast. So if we look at the ratio between them, we have that you look at this ratio, and so the ratio between two following ratios tends to infinity. So this implies that the TI are truly increasing very, very fast. Then we have to control that the tail will be very sparse, so we will choose some small epsilon so that the sum converges. And what is the principle? So we look at our disk that we will iterate, the unstable disk, and so we look at the point there, you look at the time, and so we divide the time in the size of our tail. And so the global picture, if you take an interval, so KTN, and so you of size Tn, so you go to K plus 1, Tn minus 1. Okay, so that is my interval. So there are two possibilities. Either this whole interval is in the tail. So this interval, we don't have any control. So indeed, the unique rule that we want is that it is almost dense. So I forgot to put one more constant, but let's say that it will be delta n dense. With delta go to 0, okay. Delta n dense. Okay, okay. But now if you look at the other kind of interval, so the intervals which are not with complete freedom, then we can divide in 3 subintervals. In these 3 subintervals, okay, in the first one, on the last one, all that we have the good interval for the Tn minus 1, that is not freedom interval. All the freedom interval for the Tn minus 1 are this red one in the middle part. Okay, so there are some freedom interval in the middle part, but there are not very much. That is, we want that there exist. So there are some of them, but not too much. My computer is tired. I think that I'm not tired, but the computer is. Yes. Okay, so I think I have to call again XJournal. Do you? Yes. Restaurer le fichier. Yes. Please do that for me. Is not able. Sorry. Yes, we have done. So let's go. No, not able to. I lose the control of my computer. Sorry. Is it share still or not?
No, we just see you and your.
Okay. So, okay, I have to share again, but for the screen sharing, okay. So let's try to share again. But for the moment, I have no more the control. Well, I think I will call the PDF. I will stop. So it will be easier to manage. If you want to do that, yes. So, okay. Maybe I will try to share again. Share screen. Okay, this one. Comment on a enregistré? I guess it's this one. Share. Okay. Okay. Can you see it?
Yes, we see your screen.
Okay, so I think I have the control now. Okay, so the rules is now that we have we have interval of time Tn, we divide in 3 times. So there are 2 kinds of interval of Tn, the one which are in tail. And so for the interval of time Tn minus 1, there are also 2 kinds. So the one which are in tail, but the one, if you look at the one of size Tn, you divide it in the interval of size Tn minus 1. And so most of them are not in tail. And there are very few of them which are contained in the tail. On this one, the proportion of the red interval of time Tn minus 1 has to be between 0 and epsilon n. So tends to 0, and the sum is okay. So we have very few interval of in the tails in this big interval of time Tn. But if you look at the Tn plus 1, it will be exactly the same. So you will continue like that. And now we want that in all these intervals of time Tn minus 1, we have control, the unique control we want even for the red one. We just want that the average, the global average along of that is between these 2 intervals that we already seen in the previous principle. So the average are always good in this interval of time Tn minus 1. The average along this big interval also has to be this one associated to epsilon n minus for this n minus n. Okay. And so with that, what we get is not as in the previous principle, we don't have control of everybody in the omega limit set, but what we get is that if you look at any measure which is limit of the Dirac along your orbit, so you make the usual limits, so you get that for this measure, for almost every point, you have that the Lyapunov exponent is 0. So I forget to write here that we also have that for almost all these points, the orbit of this point is dense in the manifold. And okay, but this measure is not ergodic. And we announce ergodic measure, but it's not important because as it is true for almost every point, if you take almost every measure in the decomposition of that measure in ergodic measures, then you get the vanishing Lyapunov exponent, and you get that the support of the measure is the whole manifold. So we get 2 of the things that we wanted, but indeed, with Bocchi, myself, and Lorenzo, we were not able alone to prove that this measure was with positive entropy. And for that, we asked to Dominique Zwietnak to help us. And indeed, we have to change a little bit the principle to make much more regular the intervals. So for getting, but okay, with some hypotheses, and that is a paper to be to appear. So we get the Galit proof. So we get also positive entropy with some very good regularity. So I will stop here. That is not the good file, so I wanted to say happy birthday to Lorenzo, but also I apologize, Lorenzo, because he asked me to make a work about the Galit proof and I never did. So sorry, Lorenzo, for that. I'm very bad for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian. So any comments, not about Gallifrey, any comments or questions? Yes, Catherine.
No, just to comment, Christian, the king construction with the periodic orbits. So Lorenzo, myself, and Micha, we did this for skew products, where you basically replace a construction where you replace the periodic orbits by horseshoes. And this gives you the restricted variation of principle. So this shows that you construct ergodic measures with zero exponent as close with as large as possible entropy. So this is for the skew product, and currently we are, well, I don't know how to call this, not finishing, but we are writing currently the version for some skew product, no, not skew product setting, for some partially hyperbolic setting where the center is integrable, minimal foliations, and appropriate settings. So, and with, well, this is with also with Bruno Santiago.
Sorry?
This is also with Bruno Santiago. So, oh.
So you,
No, yes.
so you say that you construct these measures as possible with high entropy as it is possible.
It's not the maximal entropy, but
Yes.
it's as
Yeah, this is the comment that I wanted to make because by Lorenzo, Catherine, and Micha and result, you cannot go to the maximal entropy.
This is still unknown. I don't know how to do this. We don't know.
Well, it is on. It is. I don't know what is in the iterated function system. This is your result, and in the partial hyperbolic setting, if you have compact center leaves, then you cannot go to the maximal entropy.
No, you don't go to the maximal possible.
To the topological entropy, yes.
You do not go to the topological entropy of the system, but you go to the maximal, the end topological entropy of those level sets.
Yes.
The maximal possible in this class.
Yes.
So you do it by the king
Possible
principle?
is not possible. Is this
What?
the maximal possible is not the total or the
No.
maximal?
Well, you cannot always get what you want. No, that's unfortunate.
No, this is not.
You get it by the king
Maximal
principle?
possible is not possible. What a confusion.
So the rough idea is that you replace periodic orbits by horseshoes, but it's not so easy. So you need to work with it.
Okay. Oh, okay. But the center is not one-dimensional then.
The center is one-dimensional. Yes.
Ah,
I mean,
it's still.
It is written. It's a preprint for the skew product, step skew product case, but we are currently writing with the one-dimensional compact center.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. More comments or questions? If not, let's thank Christian again.